Wiley, Reggie Bush, and TJ Houshmandzadeh are back. Let's return to the NFL, where the NFL announced its decision not to suspend Tyreek Hill over allegations that the Chiefs receiver had broken his 3-year-old son's arm. Law enforcement decided not to press charges, and the NFL followed their lead. But the same day, the league also decided to suspend Seattle defensive lineman Jarran Reed 6 games over allegations of domestic violence for which he was never charged or arrested. The question here is the NFL's discipline policy just way too inconsistent? And I think it is. I don't think this makes sense. I felt like they didn't suspend Tyreek Hill because there were no criminal charges pressed. And I thought, okay, maybe they'll go with that standard because I would kind of prefer that. But then when they turn around and do this to Jarran Reed, I just don't get it. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It makes sense to me, but we got to fly a lot lower than we are. I think one thing that happens in any trial, any allegation, that we fly at too high altitude. So think about if you've ever been accused, alleged, been in court, anything. The summary of judgment, just the synopsis of the case, is usually 100+ pages, let alone the testimony, which is thousands of pages. And I will testify right now, I am not doing that dirty work per allegation, per case. And I don't think anyone is. So when we start talking about the devil is in the details, a lot of us don't know those details. But we sit high and say, that looks like that, so that should be that. Punishment should be consistent, but the practical case and the process should be very inconsistent because all the details are different. So this is a different animal than what Zeke went through, and this is a different animal than what Reed's going through. Like, they're all different entities that we're not privy to knowing all of those subtleties. So in that respect, I'm saying I'm going to respect Roger Goodell and their judgment. I will say this. Thank you, Roger Goodell, for being the guy who seems like now I'm going to be someone who grows the game and not the goon. That's always merged and been blurry for me, Roger Goodell, being the enforcer and the executor of these things while still trying to be the executive that grows the game. The two doesn't mix, and I'm glad he's making a different example.
Yeah, I think the NFL needs to bring in a third party, somebody else to handle these kinds of cases, because when you just look at what's happening with Jarran Reed and you mash that up against what just happened with Tyreek Hill, it seems very unfair. And we don't know all the details that happened. The only thing that we do know is the 3-year-old child's arm got broken. So the 3-year-old is the one who is the biggest loser out of all this. And I also don't believe that if Tyreek Hill didn't do it, he shouldn't be suspended for it. But the audio tapes sound very bad. And that's the part that is hard to get over. And when you listen to them, and it just makes you think that something did happen. We just don't know who is the culprit of it. But at the end of the day, the NFL definitely needs to bring in a third party because there's just too much inconsistencies.
On its head, it looks very, very inconsistent. I mean, you look at it and it's like, public opinion, Tyreek Hill's getting suspended.
Right.
The NFL don't play. You suspend Ezekiel Elliott, he didn't get charged. You suspend Jimmy Smith for text messages that supposedly he sent to his girlfriend and whatnot. And so when you look at it, it was like, oh, Tyreek Hill, somebody did something to his son.
Yeah.
Whether it was him.
Well, I want to clear that up. They're saying the child fell in an accident and that's how he broke his arm. So we cannot say definitively that someone did something to the child. Now, I do think the police or the prosecutor in Kansas City feels something happened, but they couldn't prove it, and that's why they walked away.
I mean, with the Jarran Reed thing, we had heard nothing about this, and then boom, you're suspended.
Right. Yeah.
And so it does look very inconsistent, but it's what Marcellus said. We do not know the details. We do not know what's going on behind the scenes. We do not know exactly what's transpiring and what actually did happen.
Yeah.
And so, to me, what Roger Goodell is doing is saying, I don't care what public opinion is. I'm going to read this, I'm going to look through this, and I'm going to do the job that I see fit. And for that, you applauded because everybody thought Tyreek Hill was going to get suspended. He looked at the facts that he saw and was like, he doesn't deserve a suspension, so I applaud him for that.
Here's one of the details that we may not know, and so this is a little speculation on my part, but it felt like the Tyreek Hill's fiance, baby mama, girlfriend, whatever, defended him, I think, and defended him in this case. We don't know what the young lady involved in the Jaren Reed, what was her position?
Right.
Did she have a conversation with the commissioner? Was she more aggressive than Tyreek Hill? Those are the kind of details I think you're talking about that we don't know anything about. And we also don't know what kind of disciplinary action, unrelated to the domestic violence deal, that the Seattle Seahawks may have had with Jaren Reed that we're not privy to. Maybe there were other factors involved, but I agree with Reggie. I've been saying it forever. I just wish Roger Goodell would step away.
They're never going to do that. He wants to be in charge of.
I'm not sure. Now, maybe he did at one point.
I'm with you, Whitlock. I think that was yesterday.
Then why hasn't he done it? If he doesn't want to be in charge, I mean, that's very simple.
See, you ain't never been divorced, but getting divorced is hard, man.
Nobody up there has.
No.
Right? Okay.
But I will say this, losing face, you got to be careful of that human capital that you lose in that transaction. Like, it sounds easy. Just stop doing it. But you've been doing it for a reason that is hard to now detach from. And it's part of his power. So I will say that about this case in particular, there are contradictions in just the testimony that is public. The stuff that we've heard have been inconsistencies. One time he's being accused, one other time sounds like he's saying, did I do it? And the audio tape is suggesting that he didn't. I will look at it from this vantage point and say that when you're looking at these type of cases, just make sure you understand the NFL doesn't have the power of subpoena.
Yeah.
That means whatever the police offer up, they get.
You know that ain't never mattered.
I didn't say it matters, but when you get into situations where there's conflict or lack of support or lack of witness, then you need something to dive into.
If the NFL really wants to do this, they have an easy out now. It's a new CBA being negotiated. You can save face and say, as part of our agreement with the Players Association, we're going to appoint a third party now. So now you can save face without giving up that power, but you really did give it up.
I'll say this, the risk that Roger Goodell took, which I'm going to applaud him for, he took the risk. Because if in a year, 2, 3, 4 years, if Tyreek Hill is involved in anything, that's going to fall back on, Roger Goodell overlooked, didn't take action here. That's why I thought, and I'm going to give him credit, if he felt like he did the right thing, but I thought if he gave him a 1 or 2 game suspension, a light suspension, he could save face for himself. But again, if you listen to that tape, Tyreek Hill has some issues to work through. Whether or not, whether or not he broke the child's arm or whatever, he's got some issues to work through in terms of how he disciplines his child, how he interacts with women, things like that. And so Roger Goodell took a risk here. I hope he's right, and I hope Tyreek Hill, he issued a statement saying he's going to live up, be a better role model and all those things. For Roger Goodell's sake, I hope so. Coming up, we had a wild weekend at the first SFY pool party in Las Vegas. We'll get into all of it. TV's hottest look at social media.
Hey, it ain't never over.
It ain't never over.